Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another Zencoder webinar. I'm Leon. I'm a developer advocate here at Zencoder. With me here is Karuna, my developer relations counterpart on possibly another hemisphere. And the star of the show today, Aditya, who is DevRel at Appwrite, and he's going to be showing us some pretty cool stuff about all of the backend infrastructure that you need to get your app up and running if you are doing agentic development, which for most of you, I certainly hope you are in this day and age. So I know we are already a couple minutes into your time. So without further ado, Aditya, welcome to the show. How are you?
Thanks a lot for having me over, Leon and Karuna. I'm really excited to be here. Um, I've spent some time recently exploring Zencoder's offerings, particularly Zenflow. It's had me intrigued. Um, and I've been working with Karuna, trying to explore, experiment, get a better understanding of what it can do, and I'm excited. Of
Oh,
course, Appwrite. Um, I've been working with Appwrite for the last few years now as a part of our DevRel team, and I am biased here, but I think there are very few truer developer tools. Considering Appwrite does everything it does to make it easier for developers to build their products, it's really an all-inclusive developer cloud at this point, with offerings for authentication, databases, storage, messaging, serverless functions that lets you deploy your sites. So really, most of what a developer could need to build their applications today.
okay.
Just being around DevTools always excites me, and I'm glad we're able to try and bridge our two products today.
Yeah, me too. Especially since I don't know how long you've been in the engineering game before all this, agentic coding came out, but I can certainly remember building all of this stuff from scratch over and over again. Right? I've set up my
Yeah.
like Postgres from scratch. I've set up my auth from scratch with my own JWT
Mhm.
tokens, right? With my own open source libraries. And there was an enormous amount of merit, and it was worthwhile. It was worthwhile to have to go through the pain and suffering of figuring that out by hand, right? But
I agree.
there's also something
Yeah.
to be said about just getting the idea out there, right? Getting the MVP out there so that you actually know what's working and what's not. So for you, where did this journey start? How long have you been with Appwrite? What brought you to Appwrite?
It's there are definitely a lot of different paths to my story, and I was fortunate that Appwrite's been my first job, to be honest. I've been with our team for over 4 years now. I joined while I was back in school.
Mm-hmm.
But I did go to school as a computer science student, and I was programming during high school and middle school before that as well. I was lucky enough to have access to tools and resources of that sort. So I've had my time playing around with different kinds of technologies, different backend services, and I did start off as a backend developer before I decided to focus my career towards developer relations. I started building with .NET, so I've had the opportunity to see what backend development can really look like,
Mm-hmm.
through different internships, through different projects, through some contractual work otherwise. And fortunately, I happened across Appwrite back in 2021. It's a tool that I really fell in love with very quickly. It was an open source backend as a service then. It's so much more today than what it used to be.
Mm-hmm.
But just being able to be a part of our journey from the very early days, back when we were just about 10 people supporting different community initiatives, working on documentation, working on our different SDKs as well. It's really built my appreciation for technology as it stands today. Because I really resonated with what you mentioned about having been able to build some of these services, and I do very vividly recollect working with different authentication technologies and then eventually just spinning up my own jot based or systems working, and really diving into understanding how um, jot tokens even worked, working with claims and roles, and going through all of those traditional steps with your backend as you would. But at the same time, I think we spend so much time as builders on some of these fronts. It does also take us away from our products, right? And in a world that's as fast as today with AI tools,
Mhm.
you don't just have to be the best at it, you also kind of have to be the first. It does make a bigger difference today than it did 5 years back. So I feel like tools like Zenflow, tools like Appwrite really do enable developers to do that. I'm excited. I know it's a new world. I know it's a very different world than what it was, but it's really
Well,
exciting to
yeah,
be here.
it's a new world, and it's a new world kind of like every 3 months or so, right? So, when you
Yeah,
say it's not enough to be the best, you also have to be, first, or at least fast, right?
yeah,
I mean, it's
absolutely.
kind of I think that's kind of true for whatever you are building at this point, right? Because now you can be the best, but if you're 3 months late, then you're no longer a second mover. You've just building on a sort of outdated, um, uh, not stack, but probably, if not an outdated set of models, tools, and skills. If what you're building is in the AI space, right? An outdated set of model tools and skills. If not outdated, then at least no longer the frontier, right? So,
Absolutely, yes.
in saving that time and saving that suffering, what is the sort of the number one thing that you see developers, you know, uh, delegating to Appwrite that saves them the most pain and suffering? I mean, you've got auth, you've
That's
got
that's
backend, you've got
that's a good
messaging.
question
Personally,
for
I know which
sure.
one it would be for me. I know which one it is for me. 100% it's auth, because there's so many ways to skin that cat. Um, uh, so with the back end, I generally know what I'm doing, and I'm lucky that I had to learn SQL sort of the hard way, so I kind of know my way around it. But with auth, there's
Mm.
always a different flavor. There's more third party auths that I know what to do with OAuth. Then there's like managing all the password forgot, all the possible fraud. Like there's so much complexity in it. So, but that's me. That's me. What do you see?
You know, I definitely hear you there. I think even with our community, the the area we see being outsourced the most to Applet, I think, is probably what most people need.
Mm,
Authentication really just becomes one of those most absolutely fundamental features, and whether you need a database, whether you need push notifications, whether you've got storage, whatever that requirement is, you probably need users logging in and registering before that. So I would say that
right.
authentication, it's definitely something that people would start with. And it sounds simple, but if you've spent time writing authentication services, and I heard that you did, so have I, it is
Mm.
much harder than you might realize. Um, and if someone hasn't, I do still recommend you should try rolling your own auth. You will realize why you don't like doing that all the
I
time.
think I think anybody that is starting from this paradigm of having something like Appwrite manage that for you, and then try to go the other direction, having Appwrite and then doing it by hand, having Appwrite to doing it by hand, no agent, no AI. I think a lot of people, including myself, honestly, would be lost because even if I know the basics and the rules of it, I'm not ready to go through that again. You know what I mean? So there's just no going back.
Yeah, yeah. Like just for example, how many of us have to think today what password hashing algorithm you'd have to use? It's just when you get into the nitty gritties of some of these technologies,
Yeah.
it's great to understand what you're doing, right? Manually implementing them
Hmm.
every single time is hard. I think that way probably one of our most underrated offerings, in my opinion, and that isn't to say that it isn't used enough. It's just I think it deserves far more love. Um, is storage, because a good storage offering, just having chunking implemented in your SDK out of the box, is something people don't realize the benefits of all the time, especially when they're beginning. Um, it's really in the minute details. And if someone's ever tried building some of these offerings themselves,
Mhm.
I think, and I had the opportunity to do that, it's really developed and built my appreciation for these sort of products.
So you mentioned chunking, and chunking is probably not your most typical basic storage use case. I mean, basic storage use case, we're typically talking just about some relational tables, right? Um,
Sorry.
but hmm?
I was referring to object storage, because we have databases, we have storage, we've got
Yeah,
both of those. So yeah.
yeah, okay, yeah, perfect. So like with chunking, that's something like even on top of your go-to basic setup that okay, even if you
Hmm.
know how to set up your typical full stack app, right, or just a typical CRUD app, like
Yeah,
chunking is then a whole new animal, right? And that's also going to take you weeks, maybe
exactly.
even months to figure out, especially if you're starting from scratch. So it kind of sounds like there's a layer to it that's not just for your run of the mill CRUD app, but you're really talking about day and age streaming, multi object type storage and retrieval.
Yeah.
Um, uh, okay, so there's a lot of sides to it. There's a lot of faces to it. I know that we could talk about it all day, but we've also got some stuff to show, right? And I don't want to take up all the time just teasing about it. So, Karuna, if you want to show the folks what Appwrite is all about inside of Zenflow.
Yep. Awesome. While start sharing my screen, why don't you go ahead and tell people what Appwrite is and how does the MCP work so we can just get started.
Absolutely. So, I mean, we've already been chatting a bit about Appwrite, but in case someone hasn't come across Appwrite in the past, Appwrite is essentially a developer cloud that provides you with all, or at least most of the general purpose tools, products, services that you would need to build a full stack app for today, right? Like when I talk about my examples, let's take an application like Instagram, for example. Today, if you have to build Instagram, right, um, for the like just as you start off, first thing you'd probably need is, well, an authentication service. Once you're logged in, if you go and upload a post, you need a storage service to upload those images or videos. You at the same time are storing content, so you probably need a database. You're getting notifications, so you probably need a messaging services. Writing all of these gets difficult if you're doing them manually every single time you build an
Mm-hmm.
application. So this is where Apprate comes in. It provides you all of these general purpose products and services available and ready for you to integrate via SDKs or a REST API or even GraphQL for that matter. It also comes with a simple to use interface. So if you need to um, interact with your um, data, with your information, get a better understanding of how all of these services are working, you do get the Apprite console to help you interact with these. And it does help improve your productivity by a vast measure. So that is in a gist what AppWrite helps you achieve. Now, MCP or Model Context Protocol is, well, a more modern day concept with how our AI enabled tech industry is moving. Um, MCP, of course, helps your chat applications, your LLM based applications work better with external data sources. So, naturally, for a product like AppWrite that is meant for developers, we wanted to ensure that our developer community, or rather any developer, whether you're a part of a community or not yet, has the tools to be as productive as possible with our product, which is where we started off with our MCP for the Appwrite API, which lets you manage your different Appwrite resources directly through your preferred LLM chat application. We are going to be using the Appwrite, MCP for API right now in this demo with Karuna. Um, we do also have an additional MCP server, which is for the Appwrite documentation that lets your LLM chat app get the latest documentation for Appwrite. So your LLM chat always has access to the latest information, because our LLM models today, they do get updated over time. You don't necessarily always have the latest information with these models by default, but that won't help
Yeah.
you, right? If Appwrite is adding new features and new products and is getting better day by day. Like for example, one thing
Well,
we've literally just released today is a screenshots API that lets you take screenshots of web pages. Leon, sorry, I thought you were going to say something
yeah,
there.
no, no, no. Well, I was actually gonna ask sort of directly to your point. So, how does Appwrite use Appwrite to build Appwrite, right? But it sounds like you were releasing something today, which I would love to know if Appwrite helped build that, if Appwrite was a part of it, and also tying back to what you're saying about documentation, about how that works, right? How that fits into your ecosystem. But you know what? I can save that for later
So
because I know Karuna's got this pulled up. But I would love to hear about that screenshot saver real quick.
I think this is definitely a more foundational use case that we've added to Appwrite. So
Uh huh.
I wouldn't say this was a part of Appwrite in advance, but one cool thing we did within Appwrite was develop our own framework for PHP, like
Uh
similar to
huh.
Laravel and so on, which is called Utopia. So that was definitely used in building this. And then as a part of Appwrite, we launched our own AI app builder called Imagine, which is similar to Bolt and Lovable, not too long ago. So that actually uses Appwrite, and including the screenshots API for previews and so on. So we do dog food it a lot. This, of course, was a more foundational feature. So it
Hmm.
uses some of our underlying work. I wouldn't say it uses a full-fledged Appwrite product yet, but we do
Yeah.
have other tools and other products in our repertoire which are leveraging this already. It is a cool little feature, honestly, because, for example, if tomorrow you've got your site that you're trying to deploy, we do previews
Yeah.
for all of these deployments, right? So we're using a lot of the
Hmm.
same logic for the screenshots API, and we're just allowing our developers to be able to leverage the same logic for their benefits as well, right? So say tomorrow you want to spin up preview environments, or you just want to make sure that if you're queuing your web page and you want to make sure everything looks okay with a specific custom state or in a specific locale, it makes it easier to do all of those things, right? So it's definitely a cool new tool that's out there. But if I go to GPT 5.2 as well, you're not going to get access to this
Yeah.
information out of the box. So the docs MCP server really becomes helpful in those situations.
Yeah. No, tell me about it. I'm MCP all the way when it comes to docs.
Awesome. I think we're going to see a demo of our MCP for API now as Karuna proceeds, because I know we were playing around with this a little earlier as well, and I have my fingers crossed.
Yeah.
I hope this works
Let's jump
well.
in.
But yeah,
Hey, look,
Karuna,
it's not
let's
like
let's
it's going to be recorded forever for everyone to see until the end of time. Don't worry about it.
Right. Awesome. So, yeah, let's get into the demo. I already tried how to build an Appwrite app previously, as you can see in the tasks, but let's go ahead and first, let's see, fingers crossed here. Let's go to settings first and see how we can integrate Appwrite's MCP server into Zenflow. Now, if you have opened Zenflow, all you have to go to is go to settings, and then you should see MCP servers here. Now we already have two servers here, which you can directly click add and it will get added here. If not, you should see something like this, right? So each of these agents, whatever agent you are using, you can configure MCP server for the same. So currently I'm going to be using Zencoder agent, and I have configured the Appwrite API MCP, which is basically I have just copy pasted from the Appwrite documentation here for you should be able to, yeah.
By the
So,
way, we are working on something new. Karuna and I were chatting for this. We're gonna add like a dedicated integrations page for Zencoder as well.
yes.
So we're gonna make it easy to ensure that anyone who's using Zencoder is able to get our MCP servers set up as quickly as possible. We're gonna do that.
Beauty, beauty. Love to
PRs
hear
on
it.
the way. Yes. So currently I'm just using this code snippet here. So you can see Appwrite API, and this is all you have to copy, right? And Appwrite project ID. So for this, these three things, you do need to create, login into Appwrite, create a project, uh, like get your API key and your endpoint, whatever region you select. And then you can go ahead and paste this here. So I already have a project, already have an API key and an endpoint, and I got it from here, which is this place.
By the way,
So
if I might just add a little more context on that, um, Appwrite's MCP for its API operates on specific projects. The purpose of ensuring this is just to make sure that you authenticate your MCP client with an API key that you've generated. It ensures that no one else can access data for different projects and so on, just to ensure that we're not messing around with people's projects otherwise. And it essentially replicates everything that Appwrite's server SDKs can do. So you can fully operate on an Appwrite project through this. The Appwrite project ID and the project endpoint are, of course, well, those are publicly exposable. The API key, I almost got a heart attack when I saw it up there. Let's make sure that we reset that API key after the live stream. But you of course should keep that secret. And because of the way MCP servers work, and because you are essentially running this client on your local system, it wouldn't end up exposing what you're doing out to the world, which is great. Honestly, I like that Zenflow does work on your local system. It's not necessarily a hosted application, because I would be very worried about API keys on that front. With the API key, just make sure that you are enabling every service that you need. So if you go to the API keys tab there, right,
yes,
and you click on create a new API key, we don't have to create one now, but just to kind of look at it, people can enable whichever services they want. So if suppose you want to be able to create new users through this MCP server, you should enable auth, and you can actually pick which specific scopes for authentication you want to enable. So if you just click on the drop down for auth, yeah, just click there. You can select if you wanted to be able to just create users or also be able to create teams, which is helpful if you're creating a multi-tenant application, or if you also want to be able to operate on sessions, which essentially acts like a login, right? Similarly, with databases, you can decide whether you only wanted to be able to add rows to your table or also be able to create tables, columns, indexes, and so on. So it does ensure that you get as much control over your project infrastructure as possible, and you aren't necessarily giving extra information to any LLM for that matter. I think this just helps ensure that it's always good, keeps your system more robust. You get to select what you want to and what you don't need. So
right,
if we're not creating new functions, we shouldn't even enable that those API scopes.
right. Awesome. So let me just exit quickly. So I already have an API key which I'm going to be using the same. So yeah, let's get back here. The API Appwrite endpoint, you should be able to see it right here. And yeah, it is basically the region you have selected when you're creating your project. And yes, so this is for the API Appwrite API MCP. And we also have one for docs, which is just this piece here. So once
Yeah.
you have added all of this, you can simply click on save and go back. And
Like the big difference between the two is that the API server is one of the more standard STD IO servers, which would run on your local system. It leverages a Python package that we've prepared. for this particular MCP server. The doc server, because it doesn't really need any authentication, is delivered via server side events. So it makes it possible and safe to host publicly as well. And that is why you see a different configuration for both our MCP servers there.
Right. So, the next part is, as you can see, pretty simple. We go to a new task. Let me just get the spec.
Fortunately, this is a tried and tested spec. And by the way, this is a prompt that we offer within the Appwrite documentation. Um, Little sneak peek. We are working on a new section in our documentation to make it easier to integrate with different AI applications and tools, which will feature all of these different quick start prompts and so on. Um,
Nice. So
it's a
we can
secret reveal.
specify the
It's
specs.
not yet something we've talked about, but it's in the works right now.
Nice. So instead of prompts, we can make it spec, as it's spec driven development now.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I actually do like that whole concept. I think um, just having a full-fledged specification, it does inform your AI tool a lot more. I think you can ensure you're not missing information, which is kind of why a lot of AI generations go bad for people. So it's great to see this.
Right.
Well, yeah, and it's especially
Awesome.
when you're doing
Yeah.
sort of a long running exception, right? When you are
Yeah.
not sitting there watching it, right in front of you, when you're
Mhm.
treating it less like a pair programmer and more like you are managing a long running semi independent agent, you want to make sure it's got
Mhm.
a roadmap, especially when it's working on so many things like with the Appwrite MCP, right? There's quite a few things that you could be working on at the same time. So I think that the Appwrite platform marries really well with Spectrum development, where you have the Appwrite functionality paired with a really specific roadmap of how you want it to look.
I agree. I agree. Absolutely.
Awesome. So let's get ahead. I'll quickly just explain what these four things are and why are we choosing this specific one. Quick change is nothing but here we are directly implementing the feature or directly just saying it's like giving it a small prompt. Agent just makes assumptions and it just focuses on getting it done. Fixing bugs is just diagnose the whole code base and root cause analysis and just fixes bug. Now coming to spec and build, here is what we have to give them a complete spec, which is nothing but a whole description of what you want to do, how you want to do, what tech stack are you going to be using. So you have to be very specific. So I'm going to go ahead and paste a spec which I have already created in the previous task. Since this is a demo, I'm just going to be pasting it here. It's kind of a long spec, but yeah, this is what all I have, right? Uh, Now, I'm just going to auto start this on success. And then in execution settings, yes, I'm just going to look if I have the Zencoder agent and configuration. Currently, it's default. I'm going to keep it as it is. And then I'm going to click create and run. So it'll start looking at the specification uh, and start seeing, okay, now it has started. It will start building the application and hopefully we see some of the tool calls happening.
Karuna, for the sake of time, do you have those tool calls
Yes.
already executed in the one that you ran?
Yes, I do. So I can try that. Just a minute. So yes, if I go here, after the technical specification, it just created a whole summary of how it's going to run it, right? So it has key points, implementation steps, project setup, right? So it did make some tool calls here. Uh, and yes, the project setup is complete. Appwrite configuration. Let me just check. User authentication.
while she's looking at this, Aditya, and you know what, Karuna, we are coming up on a little bit of time here, so
Yes.
maybe I'm just gonna ask one quick question from Aditya. So, what kind of calls can we expect to see typically throughout this flow?
So, um, for this particular application, if I'm not wrong, this particular spec will help generate an idea tracker, right? Now, one of these errors here, which I see on the screen about our database setup, was essentially an early MCP misconfiguration, which we sorted out later on. But the kind of tool calls you can expect is it'll create a table for you. It will add necessary columns. It might add some indexes accordingly, and if you would like to, you can also request it to seed your database with some template information. So you can expect
Mhm.
all of those changes to come up. And looks like there was an MCP error. Karuna, I think we should probably double check into that. But ideally, if this works, that's feedback for me to take back. But ideally, once this works, you're gonna be able to watch it set up your entire database for you.
Yes, so I did add a user using the
Oh,
same
awesome.
MCP. Uh, it should have, yes. So it said user created successfully, and if I go back here to Appwrite's auth, you can see the John Doe same thing, and I can do it live as well here. Let's try with another example. Let's say,
Okay, just a heads up. I was looking at your MCP setup. I don't think we included the auth flag, or rather, I think it's the users flag, which would prevent it from being able to work on the users API. So, just as a live edit, if you want to do,
yes,
I would add hyphen users, and that'll ensure that it can operate on the user's API. The reason we don't recommend enabling every flag all the time is because adding all the tools does take up your context window, which can be a
100%.
challenge with some LLM clients, or
Yeah.
with some MCP clients. Um, but yeah, since we are okay, I think it just created a script to
oh,
do that. Let's just make sure it uses the MCP server for this, because I think it's just prepared a script for that purpose. Which
Well,
A
she
is
plays
one way
around
of
with
doing
that.
it.
It's interesting you brought up providing the right context at the right time. We found a lot that with more advanced models, they do get more context hungry just because they are more capable. So being really specific
Exactly.
about what tool calls, what data you want them to access, it's a one, it's just a better security measure, but two, it will make your conversations and your agents more efficient and effective because they have more room to work on and read the actual
Absolutely,
relevant
yes.
information.
So
right
looks
now
like
it's
there
using
it's
the
used the
bot.
Appwrite MCP. Yeah. So in that case, this is the right tool call, where it uses the user's API that Appwrite
Mhm.
has to get information of all the users that have been created so far. Ideally, with the right tools selected, you can achieve the same with the Appwrite MCP as well, and it's just one tool call there, right? Instead of multiple, where you're generating a script and so on. You could do this for every single product Appwrite currently offers, and
Right,
that's the big win that you get with this MCP server. So I think I have done this a number of times where when I'm setting up projects, I just seed them using the Appwrite MCP, and I can have my LLM chat auto generate some amount of dummy data, right? Like, let's say I want a superheroes database, right? Or it's just a general people's database and I want to seed it with DC Comics characters or Marvel characters. I actually do that quite a lot. Um, it's so much easier in a world with such tools today. So that's always a big win. You know, when you're setting up, when you're configuring your infrastructure, when you need to get access to saved information, when you want to access or rather even analyze information in your external data source. It does really kind of give you these benefits. And you can see here it's making an API call where it gets back this information that you've stored. These
So
are
I
a couple of good
did make
examples.
an app. The app is here. It's called Idea Tracker. It's the same spec which I executed earlier. So if I do an idea, create a new webinar, and I just click submit. It's live on Appwrite right now, so it's here. Create a new webinar. If I go to Appwrite, you should be able to see it as well. If I go to databases, ideas tracker, and yes, it just appeared here. So now
Let's
if
see if
I
the
do,
MCP gets this one back.
yes, let me try
That's going to be a
this.
good test in production.
It got the previous three. Let's hope it gets this one as well.
It gets all of them.
Awesome, it got it.
Hell yeah.
And so then some of the other cool things you can do is, right, like let's say, for example, you've got a massive set of information in a database and you want to maybe analyze this data based on when it was created or if a certain author created more documents and so on. It gives you the flexibility to do that, right? So this also becomes really impactful when you want to implement any business intelligence tooling, for example, or if that's what you want to use your LLM chat lake. Um, Creates a lot of really cool use cases.
I can test
Well,
out the docs API as well. Tell
Okay.
me how to
actually, yeah, if
create.
we do that real quick.
Give me a question. Sorry, Leon, you were saying something.
Don't remember.
Create a database on Appwrite. I'm just gonna ask this question. Let's
Hmm.
see. Did it make a call or is it just assuming?
Oh, it's giving you the information on how to do that, right?
Okay,
Beauty.
I am not
right.
sure if it made a tool call though.
Right.
Do you want to specify using like the Appwrite MCP, the Appwrite Docs MCP? Sometimes specificity might help a bit. This is why I consider prompting an art more than science. Like it's always just a little. You've always got that one little thing there that you need to.
Yeah,
Appwrite
and
Docs MCP. You've got two different.
you can see. So when you select the configs at the bottom, right, it's pretty easy to select for the task at hand which agent, which includes which prompts and which tools you want to include
Oh,
in
that's
that
really good.
agent
That's
in that
helpful for
conversation,
sure.
right? Yeah. So it's over time, right? You're well, you can call. I don't call this an IDE personally. I consider this a. I call it my ACC, my Agent Command Center, right? But it's something that evolves with you over time, right? As you learn these lessons, as you know
Yeah.
which systems you like working with, you add these little, instructions line by line until you get every tool call that you want over time. So it's a little different than your traditional IDE, right? Because it is
That makes a lot of
cumulative. It gets
sense.
better the more you use it. Yeah.
Absolutely. And by the way, this one actually did use the Docs MCP because it called our search tool, which searches the docs with specific keywords. So you actually see a more updated answer because uh, not too long ago, we updated our database terminology to reflect the underlying tech and switched to
Hmm.
tables and rows, which ended up, for which we actually created a new API, which is called the Tables DB API. So this example actually uses the Tables DB API, whereas the previous one
Nice.
did not, which would actually make sense
Okay.
with just LLMs not being up to date with the latest information.
100%. Well, okay. So
It's
that
the
if
perfect
somebody
example,
wanted to get started
honestly.
on the latest version, right, with the latest knowledge today,
Yes.
how would they go and actually get started? Now, I'm assuming that's the one thing you cannot automate with Appwrite. I'm assuming, right? Because you need to create the API key in the first place. But if I did want to get started today, how would I go and do that?
Would that like with the app rate specifically?
With Appwrite, yeah.
Oh yeah. Um, I mean, our documentation is a great place to begin. So if you want to learn from our docs in your um, agent command center, just set up the docs MCP. It's easy enough as a Google search at this point. I do kind of believe that we've done decently well with SEO, and it's something that you should find as quickly as possible. But our documentation ensures you've got enough quick starts. We've been working on quick start prompts, so you can just copy a prompt and it'll get your first project started that you can just learn from as well. If you don't want to spend a lot of time outside of your development ecosystem, um, and yeah, beyond that, if you want to if you want to learn from people, right? I think some of us learn better from knowledge bases. Some of us like to learn from people. We've always got the AppRate community where there are a number of us team members. We've got our community moderators, and we've got just a lot of other people otherwise who are always happy to help out. So lots of different forums for anyone here to get started.
Awesome. Okay. Well, you heard it here first. Probably not first. I'm sure you guys have already been doing a great job of getting the word out. But you heard it here with Zenflow first. Aditya, thank you so much for joining us. I feel like we could have gone another hour with this demo. Maybe we have to schedule some more
Yeah,
time to get you
absolutely,
back on the
yes.
show.
Yeah,
Yeah,
this was a bit fast.
awesome. Well, it was great having you. Come back soon to the show. And yeah, I can't wait to actually play around with this myself.
I'm glad to hear that. And anyone who ends up trying this out, I'm always happy to hear your feedback. If you find any issues, we're constantly out to fix. So please always feel free to reach out. I'm happy for the chat. You know, I also do like talking stuff outside of tech. So if you like football or soccer, depending on where you're from, um,
Oh,
there's a lot
yeah.
we can talk about. I love games, I love books, I love football, lots of things.
You know
So
what?
I'm just glad to be
We'll just
here with
have
you
you
all. I'm
on.
always happy to connect with
Yeah.
people who want to.
Right. We can just do
Sorry.
we can do a just book club webinar. Like
Oh yeah,
no
yeah,
code,
yeah.
no environments, just books. How about that?
I'm actually I've got the one that I'm starting, or it's a little short. It's not a very big book, but I think the one that I picked up recently, it's the Myth of Sisyphus, and I've actually been reading this. It was an essay, and then there's a lot of commentary around it, but it's a fascinating read. Um,
Yep.
would definitely
No,
encourage
no,
people to
it's a
check that
classic.
out.
It's a classic. I love that.
It
That's your
is.
like that's your office book. Is the Myth of Sisyphus.
It's
At least it
it
looks
was in
like you're
my
at the office,
backpack right
or you have a
now.
very officey
I
apartment.
would say so.
Okay.
I am in a WeWork at the moment, but I'll tell you what though,
Yeah.
it does really depend on when you're catching me. Because a few days back, it was kidnapped by R.L. Stevenson, so you never know which book you find me with.
I'm on the Tokyo Express right now, so it's yeah. You
Awesome.
know what? We'll talk. We'll talk. All
We
right.
should.
Great having you. Great having you. Karuna, I think you're gonna have to be the one that hits the stop recording button. But again, great to have you.
Yes.
And yeah, everybody, check out Appwrite. You're gonna fly with it, especially on Zenflow.
And a quick announcement. So we have a specathon going on right now. If you want to know more about specs, how to create, it's a challenge. You can join in. It's a weekly challenge. So every week there's going to be one winner out there who's going to win Zenflow credits. So
Ooh,
hop onto Discord and please do check out. I'm commenting the Discord link on LinkedIn and
sounds
hopefully to see you
exciting.
all there. Awesome. Thank you, folks, for joining and see you soon.
See you next time.
It's not stopping.